and welcome to this special occasion where we are back covering the Twilight Princess manga. Last time me and Jamie covered the chapter 1 to 3, and this time we are going to cover 4 to 6. We decided that now it's the time to cover it since, finally started to get it on their digital app. Mangas from the Fire Emblem, but I digress. But you had enjoyed this manga so far, right? And how are you going?
Yeah, I really enjoy the changes that they've made to the story. So it's very distinctive from the video game Twilight Princess, and also just in general for me. I don't know how long some of you guys have been watching on the channel, but definitely appreciate your viewership. But for me, it's also been a little while that I've read manga. So going back and reading and really taking my time to look at these great illustrations and take in all the dialogue and the emotions that these characters have put on display. It's really been a sight to behold. So yeah, I've really been enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and I hope everything's good with you, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing good.
Yeah. Well, why not start to the chase and start covering. Also, we are going to be a bit semi-spoilery kind of deal. We might not say panel to panel, but some part we are going to talk about. But we are talking chapter 4, Omens, which kicks off from the last chapter where Link kind of snaps against one of the town's children that says that he has to adventures a la Luffy style kind of deal. I know that Mike is going to roll his eyes, but you can wonder if the mangakas took some inspiration with the One Piece when they gave Talos, which is the name of the kid's name. It took some inspiration there. I don't know.
It's possible. I mean, you think about it, One Piece has been out for so long. There's so many opportunities to influence it.
Yeah,
and it's one of the most successful manga / anime out there. So if you're gonna imitate, might as well do the best.
And we also pick up on something that was kind of a big deal at the beginning of the last 3 chapters, which is where they sort of where the major mentions that Link declined the offer from they are curious why, because considering how big of a deal it is at being allowed to give the King of Hyrule the sword personally, it isn't just some random gig someone is getting. It's sort of like for a security guard, it's like protecting the king or president or whatever you live in kind of deal.
All right, it's like getting the key to the city or something, and you say no.
Sort of like that.
And
you go through and sort of like going through more as to what's the reason as to why he refused that, and how should I put it? I think the most powerful part of that, I don't know about you, correct me, Asa. I don't know about you, but dinner at Russell's place, when they go through that whole thing, in particular, I think the art on Link's faces, especially when the Beloved, when he says that I want you to be my partner, and you see his face, just I would almost say it's not becoming dead, but it's not the positive Link that we have seen in the previous chapters, kind of deal.
Right. Yeah, we definitely start to see a little bit more of that darkness and how Link might actually be feeling about just his whole situation start to come out.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, my dad called me, so I should probably call him back. Hopefully it will be shorter.
Yeah, it's okay. We can just cut that one.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. We were trying to figure out some apartment stuff earlier.
Okay. Nice.
Okay.
Where were we, by the way?
I think the last thing we were talking about was Link kind of losing the light from his eyes and being a little bit more sad and less cheery than he was in the first 3 chapters.
Yeah. Then we take it from there then. And I don't know about you, but you can see the sort of like the light fades from his eyes kind of deal when Russell mentioned to him that he wants to have Lynx as a partner.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that like his real emotions were coming through, and it's also just another like accolade to the mangakas for really being able to illustrate like these feelings and have them really come off the page. Like you can really feel and visually see that Link has been affected by like Russell's like request, and the fact that in honesty he probably wants to do this and he wants to like be a part of this community initiative, but he knows that it will put his identity at risk or possibly like the village with whatever like dark connections that they've been alluding to him having in the manga so far.
Yeah, especially when we can see him coming back, having the inner monologue, talking about yes, getting more and more what's about him, when he sits there on his bed and just thinking for himself, and just how should I put it? A picture says more than 1,000 words, and just especially I still don't want this peaceful time to end, and you see him just sitting there. As in, I mean, I can I think everyone can relate that we sort of like have a sit down on the bed and just trying to get our hold of ourselves.
Oh yeah, definitely. Even within like the past couple months or so, like I've definitely gone through like a big life transition. You know, my background's different than usual, so moved into a new place and just getting used to everything. Even though I don't have, at least I hope I don't have like some dark world waiting for me, but just the idea of like, you know, I'm comfortable where I am right now and I don't want this to end is something that's like very relatable and something that I don't think we really get to feel in the video game Twilight Princess, because as emotive as Link is, it's almost more comically understood than it is emotionally understood, like how this is actually affecting him. Like I think whenever we see Link emote, for the most part, it's really for the audience to kind of play off his reaction or find some comedic relief from his reaction rather than us connecting with Link emotionally. But here, not only do we get to see him like kind of hold himself and curl up on his bed, but we also get to hear and see like his thoughts and the thought of like not wanting this peaceful time to end and just wanting to like hold on to these relationships that he's built in Orden Village.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree on that one. And his situation doesn't get any better when you see what happened to the pumpkins at the village.
My
If,
cabbages. That's all I think. But the guy's like, my pumpkins.
yeah, and Mike would be so proud right now if he were here. But it's a it's a very subtle way, I'd argue, or should I? Is it unsubtle? I might be off my rockets here, but to show
It's
that something is going on,
right.
kind of deal.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree with that.
I mean, it's not in your face, kind of, but sort of like, ooh, spooky, having a monster in front of you, in front of the characters, and they just act like it's nothing.
Right. And
But
we even see like the pumpkin farmer try to like push this off as a non-issue, like, oh, you know, like it happens every year, like we don't have to worry about this. But at the same time also telling his wife like, help me hide these pumpkins, like we don't want anybody else seeing this. So you definitely see like the denial, but also similar to Link, like they're just trying to do their best to protect the village, and sometimes that means keeping information from them that maybe they would have liked to know.
yeah. But speaking of problems, then we see, True Darkness is summoning around the village. And have you read Berserk or seen some of them? Manga panels of Berserk.
I saw the 90s anime, but Berserk I need to start Berserk as well. I haven't seen any of the manga panels, unfortunately. I'm gonna add that right now, actually.
Because these two panels, when we see them through sort of like semi-introduce the bad guys, the minions, the commander. It looks like it's straight out from a Berserk volume. I mean, with all black and white shading, sort of like and all that. Yeah, I can show you a picture of Berserk manga later, but it's very effective and very gorgeous.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's definitely a stark contrast from like the townspeople or village people that we've seen up until this point, and even like kind of a separation from like the Twilight people that we've seen up until this point. Like they don't look human, but they're also not like this, like kind of monstrous and somewhat grotesque. So I really love the art, and also I'm scared of the art at the same time. So that's how you know they're doing a good job.
I mean, who could blame you? And of course, poor Link is having a nightmare about him at the same time. As in, they walk into his, should I say, wooden house or tree house,
like a cabin.
Yeah, and we see him having a sort of like flash. What's it called? A dream about what looks like the wolf that was with Midna back in chapter 1, and we see a small shadow of Midna. Or is that just me hallucinating?
No, it definitely does look like, especially with the pairing. I can see why you would think it's Midna.
I actually and you would wonder, is this sort of like this him foreshadowing foresee something? What is it when people see something for the future? I can't recall the word.
Like a premonition.
Premonition, thank you. And of course, Talo is Talo and trying to force his way into becoming Link's apprentice when he's getting out of the house again.
I mean, you gotta give him credit. He's persistent. He is very persistent.
He's certainly persistent, and how should I put it? He certainly doesn't think of what think before he acts.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised actually when with his interaction with Epona, and he was like pulling on the reins and just not being a very like cool animal friend, I guess. And if you know what I'm saying, but he was just being very obnoxious to everybody and the people around him, and was not really thinking of the consequences. So I was a little bit disappointed in Talo, not gonna lie.
Understandably so. And you're, how should I put it? And we can all agree that the chapter ends on what can arguably call the mothers of all cliffhangers, seeing one of the villagers getting transformed into one of these beasts all of a sudden.
Yeah, that was. I'm glad that all of the chapters have come out, because if I had to wait a week to find out what was going to happen next, I would have been upset.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a perfect cliffhanger. I do think they released these weekly in Japan when this manga was serialized over there before it came to the West, and all I'm saying is poor Japanese readers that will follow this from the start. But is there anything that you want to mention of this shadow before we go to the next one?
No, yeah, this chapter is definitely like the catalyst for things to come in the volume, and I like it. I like how it's starting to create that tonal shift.
But let's move on to those that comes from the shadow, which start with Link, going returning a kitty, so to speak, and you see what's the girl's name again? Now,
I don't know. I think our mom is Sarah, but what is her name? Beth?
Yeah, that's you have some nice slice of life moment in the whole him just trying to return the cat and they react towards it, and sort of like in some cases kind of deal, but on another aspect, this scene in particular, I think that it should have been maybe it's because they mentioned that book he has ordered that it's they apply it here. And they felt that he needed to have his nightmares before. But some part of me feel like him going to the shop actually should have been before the monster, sort of like
Mm.
ended up being underway, so to speak. Or am I weird to say that? I mean, it's not a
No.
bad scene. It's not a bad scene per se. I'm just thinking, is was this rearranged or not?
No, I definitely see what you're saying because the end of, I believe the chapter is Omen, chapter 4 is what we're referring to,
Yeah,
is one of the villagers, or Ordon villages, being
yeah,
corrupted by the darkness. And then the start of this chapter is Link finds a
yeah.
kitty and he returns the kitty to the shop. And then more
Exactly.
things start to happen. So I definitely see your perspective. It could either be looked at as maybe like, we take a breath, we reset, and then we get back into like the madness that goes on throughout this chapter and the rest of the volume. Or it could have possibly been a rearrangement, just to, I guess, kind of give the fourth chapter a solid end and the fifth chapter a solid beginning. So that way, maybe manga readers won't be like, wait, why are we, well, how did we get here? What happened? Like, it's been a week.
Yeah,
And we go back to the fourth volume to refresh.
yeah.
So,
Okay, maybe.
yeah, it
I mean,
wasn't, it's
there
an
is.
interesting decision.
It's a reason. They had a reason for Link being unable to notice that Tallow grabbed Epona and Epona and sort of rode right away
Hmm.
without him knowing it, and which kicks off truly kicks off the game, so to speak,
Right.
where Link needs to search for the Talon Malon over there, and it just him reacting as quickly as he do. You would wonder if his former self kinda kicks in, because if he truly wants to careful, if that makes any sense. But then
Yeah.
again, I can't blame anyone to want to help save kids like that.
Right, yeah. And I think that's the choice that Link was kind of faced with, like he could have been a little bit more methodical and careful when thinking about how should I try to help Tallow and try to get Epona back. But taking that time may not have been, he might have not have had the time to really think it through. Like you might just have only enough time to say like, okay, this is the problem and this is how I know we can try to get Tallow back. So he just had to move quickly, and when you're doing things quickly you tend to just be a little bit more instinctual instead of methodical,
Yeah,
because it takes less, like your brain doesn't have to think about as much because it's so used to doing that. So I think Link just immediately defaulted to that because he's like, okay, I don't have time to think about this. I know what I need to do, and I just need to start like executing whatever I can do to help Tallow. So I
yeah,
think I like the way that Link kind of drops his like facade a little bit to help with this crisis that is going on with the village. Because I think it would have been kind of odd for him to, I don't know, I think that's almost like mastermind levels of
yeah.
manipulation, I guess. So
True.
I like that he just had to be his true self and did what he knew how to do.
And then when he is trying to call for Epona, then you see what you might have expected. The this chapter to start on, in comparison to what it really starts on, where you see monster coming down from the ground. You're just
Yeah,
and
it starts to
again.
get crazy.
And again, the whole when you see them talking about how they want revenge against the world of light and all the details on the monsters, it comes across to me as panels from a Berserker book. Like, if you are not squirmish and all that jazz, I can recommend Berserk, but let you say that it's the only manga I collect that has a parental figures sticker on it.
Oh, I didn't even know you could do that with manga. Wow, but
Yeah, it's that dark. Let's put it like that. And what do you think of the whole? Now it's Showtime kind of deal, scene introduction, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, it feels like everything happens like rather quickly. Even going from the fourth chapter into this one, it's just we were having a good day, we were fishing, now we're fighting monsters. So it's a very quick jump, but I like it because it definitely delivers that sense of urgency and panic that Link is also feeling. So it like puts us right on par with the way that Link feels. And this manga, like I was mentioning before, and in our previous episode, it definitely takes advantage of Link actually using his voice in the story to really deliver like a lot of these emotions that may not come across in other Zelda properties, and especially the video games. So I like the way that the mangakas kind of put us on par with Link as far as like, oh my god, like what is happening? Like we need to figure this out. We need to move quickly, and kind of having both us and Link like very scatterbrained and confused and scared.
Yeah, because Link from the game wouldn't just sort of like stand down, being questioning his accent, even going so far to just. It's just a childless tantrum. You didn't do anything wrong. Tyler didn't to himself. Why should you take so much responsibility? And isn't it? Then here, isn't it about time you left this village? And you're just. Did he think that, or is someone thinking that for him?
Yeah, I think
Because
it's the other. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, because Link, the video game Link would never do that, and that's pretty sure.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the other interesting thing about this being a manga is the fact that for the most part we know who's speaking, but in that particular instance, let me see. I don't know, I remember if they put speech bubbles or not, but I definitely interpret it in a similar way as you, Isaac, where I'm like, is Link saying this? Is this kind of like the angel and the devil kind of concept? Or is it legitimately just demons kind of whispering into Link's ear saying these dark things that maybe Link has actually thought about himself? So that's another advantage I think the manga has is its ability to like tell a story in like a very manga specific way that we couldn't get in a video game or a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. I absolutely agree with you on that one. But then we see this wolf again, which is just, which I would, if I was a manga only reader, I was just, who the heck is this wolf? Because
Yeah.
it's clearly of importance if it shows up yet again,
And
just like that.
it's funny the way that they positioned the panel where Link sees the wolf, because it's almost like the wolf is looking at Link, but the wolf is also looking at us like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm gonna see you
Mm-hmm.
later. So it's very telling that like this wolf, or at least wolves in particular, are very important to this story.
Exactly. I mean, just look at the cover art for Volume 1. You see a wolf behind Link, but then we see the end of Chapter 6. Link kinda, when he meets Russell, kinda start truly breaking down. If you really think about it, going so far to say, it's my fault. It's my fault again. And he the expression on Russell's face is kind of understandable.
Yeah,
To
he's
say
like,
the
wait a
least.
minute. He's like, hold on a second, you did this before? Like, what do you mean? It definitely mangas again, like we kind of switch perspectives because we're similar to Russell now, where we don't fully understand Link's history. Even from somebody who is like familiar with the Twilight Princess story, I'm not sure what going into this, I wasn't sure like what details they were drawing from. So I was also like, what do you mean again? Like, what exactly are you referring to? But yeah, they did a great job with that. And also, Colin, he also tries to take some of the blame for this as well. When he's
Yeah,
saying like, oh,
I
yeah,
forgot to mention that with Colin. Good callback.
yeah, because he's from the past like 4 or 5 chapters, he's seen Mallow as kind of a threat to him and Link's relationship because Link is kind of like the cool new guy in town that he's really useful. He knows some like interesting little party tricks, I guess, and he can ride a horse, which is something that was interesting to Mallow and as well as Colin. And Colin kind of gets jealous because he sees Mallow being very like forward with Link and trying to, he just says what he wants outright. And he's like, I want to be your apprentice. Like, I want to get closer with you. And Colin, even though he might not want to be like an apprentice, but he definitely wants to build a closer relationship with Link as well. So he sees that as a threat. Um, and he wishes that like something bad would happen to Mallow or that like Mallow would kind of get out of his way. And now that something bad has happened to Mallow, he's like, oh, like this is my fault. Like I didn't
Yeah,
realize what I was asking for. So it's interesting to see kind of like Colin and Link both like parallel on this line of thinking.
agreed. It's a good point. I forgot to mention that. Good point. But is there anything else you want to talk about on the chapter before we go to the next?
No, the next chapter it's very interesting. So yeah, let's get right into it.
And that is Link's Past, where we start off. We will see some of the village men being outside searching for the kids for well, obvious reasons. Going back to what you said about Colin and all that, right? Talking about how he feels guilty of it all. You see him bursting down to Ilya. Was it Ilya?
Yes,
Yeah.
Elliot.
Yeah, and wished for something bad to happen, and just kind of like feeling extremely bad about it, which is understandable.
Right.
I mean, and even if you don't, even if you don't believe in fate, you really don't want to wish something bad. You don't want your last interaction for someone that you normally care about being something like that when they pass away or something.
Right. Yeah.
And then we go to the man is talking about going through the searching for the kids, and we are starting to see one of the village people sort of like talking about well, Link's biggest fear is if you catch my drift.
Right, yeah. Him kind of being afraid that the village people will know like who he is and what he's done and like shame him for it.
I mean, it's nothing in those kind of times. It's not that weird either, because a lot of people is. This will sound bad. I'm not questioning how people are in terms of faith as of today, but we all know that omens was a big thing back in the day with the fates, no matter what belief you were in, and if something abnormal, something that happened that sticked out before something bad happened, they would always blame of that thing.
Right, yeah. I mean, even here in the States, we had like the Salem witch trials, where too many like coincidences or even like unrelated events, but they get connected to one person. They assume like, oh, you must be like a spawn of the devil or something, or working with the devil. Like you're no good. We don't want you in our community, kind of thing. And that's kind of what we see here in the manga as well.
Yeah, but but then we see him rush away and actually claim that it is his fault, and we finally get to know his backstory. And this backstory isn't in the game. That's for sure. The fact that he claims himself to being the reason why his his entire country was swallowed by darkness, and it's just hot damn.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
no wonder why he has the nightmares that he has.
Yeah, like holding on to like that much guilt is, I can only imagine like what he was going through on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, like what you were saying, this backstory is not in the game. So I want to say that this is like a manga only backstory. Just because I really don't think there's any allusions to anything like this in the game.
No, it's not.
Yeah, but this was really interesting and sad because you, like, as we will discuss further into this chapter, but his backstory is also like fairly innocent, and he just so happened to be like wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. And because of that, it kind of stuck with him that like, oh, this happened because of me.
And you can see, you finally see his backstory, where he comes, where he is trained to be a soldier instead of and he's not just some normal farm boy that people believe that he was.
Right, right.
And of course, the problem starts because of that town's version of Talo, Canadale.
Talos strikes again. He's like a multiversal being. You can't escape him.
Exactly, but also I do find it funny. They they mention that he is left-handed.
They do,
which is a nice touch, I actually have to say.
yeah. I'm not even like, maybe a few months ago, I didn't know Link was left-handed until probably maybe the second Tears of the Kingdom trailer, when people are really starting to create like a discussion around it and like the arm and everything. I had no idea just how important it was to Link's fighting style as well. So I'm glad that they pointed that out in the manga.
Yeah. However, they did change, if I'm not mistaken, they did change that in the Wii version because of they mirrored the entire game in comparison to the GameCube version.
Yeah, because most people are right-handed, so they have like the joystick or the Wii remote in their right hand.
Yeah, and you swung the sword you moved the Wii remote instead of pressing a button.
I didn't even think about that.
As someone that has played Wii U version and the Wii U version, it's interesting to see that where I had to go left or right in the Wii version, it was the opposite here in the Wii U version. But well, going back to the whole Talos part, of course there is a secret sword here. And of course, one of his friends want them to try and lift it.
Yep.
To see if someone is worthy. And then we go to Link's time, and of course, something problematic happens when he pulls the sword.
Yep, it actually comes out.
Yeah, and it pulls everyone into, well, as I said, darkness. And just like when we had a chapter where one of the villagers got turned into a beast, we have yet another sort of like mother of all flashbacks. Flashback, what I'm saying. End of the chapter.
Yeah,
where a skeleton warrior grabs Link.
Yeah, it was horrifying.
I mean, I would have nightmares just for that.
Yeah, I think I'd have a heart attack and die if that happened to me. So the fact that Link is still alive, that shows a lot of courage.
Yeah. Is there anything specific you want to point out about, well, his backstory, so to speak, that I might have missed, or anything in general when it comes to this chapter?
No, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I thought it was interesting that his backstory also incorporated kind of a sword in the stone, like King Arthur-ish kind of thing. But then pulling the sword from the stone was not rewarding, it was punishing, and ended up being turned into a really bad situation for him, which I don't think I've ever
That's an
seen before.
understanding it meant. And yeah, and that was the end of chapter 6, which concludes this recording. And next time it's going to be chapter 7 and chapter 8 of volume 1. Before we're going through the next volume, so to speak. And I hope you all enjoyed the recording and all that jazz. And Jamie, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at swiper_art, and here on YouTube at swiper_prime for gaming, as well as Twitch, and sometimes over at the Chatter After. So yeah, be sure to check that out.
Yeah, and well, you can find me over at here, and you can find me at Twitter at Emblemaniac, and I'm currently working on my own site where I will write on whatever kind of deal, but it's not really done yet. But stay focused.
Yeah,
but with that said, have it awesome, everyone.
Yeah,
Peace.
thanks for coming through. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.